Buenas tardes, good afternoon, muy buenas tardes a todos, a todas y a todes. Good evening and welcome to the 26th annual La Celebración Latina. This is an incredible crowd. I think we're going to have a really nice time this afternoon. My name is Dr. Lawrence LaFontaine Stokes, y es un gran placer y un honor tremendo para mí to serve as your host on such a joyous occasion as we celebrate the accomplishments of our Latine students who are graduating from the University of Michigan this year. Un fuerte aplauso. At this time, I would like to recognize our distinguished guests, faculty, staff, and members of our esteemed platform party. That's up here. We are especially honored to acknowledge Vice Provost Dr. Angela Dillard for your tremendous leadership. So thank you so much for everything you do on behalf of students and for being here with us tonight. To our platform party, thank you for your presence and for the many ways you contribute to the success of our students. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our Student Planning Committee, if we can have a round of applause to the students who organized this graduation event, and to everyone who helped plan this evening's Celebración Latina. These celebrations truly would not exist if it wasn't for the energy, effort, and passion of our tremendous students leader. So it's such a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you today. Before we begin this joyous ceremony, we would like to acknowledge that the University of Michigan was founded through the Treaty of Fort Meigs in 1817, when the Anishinabeg, the three-fire confederacy of the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi, ceded portions of their lands so that their children could be educated. Through these words of acknowledgement, their ancestral, traditional, and contemporary ties to this land and the founding of this university are renewed and reaffirmed. Y ahora, para comenzar esta tremenda celebración, I'd like to share the theme statements thoughtfully created by our Student Planning Committee to help guide and ground this moment of celebration. On behalf of the 2026 La Celebración Latina Planning Committee, the theme statement reads as follows. Onward, our story continues. Adelante, nuestra historia continúa. Today, we celebrate a significant milestone in our lives. We gather to share moments of perseverance and triumph that led us here. For first-generation college students and those continuing to carry the legacy, this is a win for each and every one of us. Nevertheless, in this moment of celebration, we remain aware of the harsh reality that many of our communities are living through. Across the United States, the Latine community and other marginalized communities are enduring extreme pain, hatred, and injustice that cannot go unaddressed. Our happiness during this celebration today does not erase that truth. It reminds us why this milestone matters, while honoring those who came before us and shaped the communities that made this moment possible. In response, La Celebración Latina Planning Committee has chosen a theme for this ceremony. Adelante, nuestra historia continúa. This theme is to show that nuestra historia continúa, aunque otros han intentado borrarla. Our story continues regardless of those who attempt to erase it. We have made it this far not by chance, but through resilience built in the face of barriers and a collective strength that lives in our community and carries us forward. And so, adelante, because our story does not stop here. It continues through you, through the communities you return to, and through the doors you will open for others. This is not an ending. It is the next chapters of our historia, one that has always been ours to write and now yours to carry forward. Behind every one of you who is graduating is a story of love, sacrifice, and belief. Your families have been your foundation. Every encouraging word, every sacrifice made, and every moment they told you to keep going, that love is what carries you across this stage today. Carry your stories, your struggles, and your dreams with pride. This is not an ending, but a beginning to everything you have worked for. We move forward as different people from how we entered this university because we have been shaped by the obstacles we overcame and the memories we made. We are carrying these stories into the new beginnings to come, con ganas y sin miedo. I hope our graduates see themselves reflected in the theme the committee so thoughtfully created. And I just read it, but I did not write this, but I could have, or I feel fully invested in every single word because the message is so powerful. I want to extend my sincere thanks to the planning committee for the care, intention, and dedication you brought to crafting this message. Muchas gracias. A round of applause for the planning committee. And for the conviction of your ideas and your commitment to community and to nation. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education and Interim Vice Provost for Access and Opportunity, Dr. Angela Dillard, who will be delivering our welcoming remarks. Professor Angela Dillard is Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education and Interim Vice Provost for Access and Opportunity. Across both areas, she works with multiple teams of faculty and professional staff to center the goals of access and opportunity, especially for pre-college learners and academic success, wellness, and belonging for all students. As Vice Provost and Interim Vice Provost, she is especially charged with bringing aspects of the National Student Success Movement to Michigan and is responsible for advancing continual improvements in the educational experience for more than 35,000 undergraduate students in partnership with undergraduate serving schools and colleges on the Ann Arbor campus. As a member of the U of M faculty, Dr. Dillard is a Richard Meisler Collegiate Professor of Afro-American and African Studies and of History. She is an interdisciplinary scholar who specializes in American and African American intellectual history, particularly around issues of race, religion, and politics on both the left and the right sides of the political spectrum. I am also fortunate to be able to say that I consider her to be my friend. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dillard to the podium.
Thank you so much, Larry. That's really true. We are longtime friends and colleagues and comrades in so many things. It's such a pleasure to be here this evening. On behalf of Provost Lori McCauley and all of us lucky enough to be members of the Provost's office area known as Access and Opportunity, it's a pleasure to offer my welcome and my congratulations. What a treat to be with you as we recognize our class of 2026 graduates and celebrate the graduation of our Latine student community at the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan's first Celebración Latina was held in the year 2000, with the number of students participating in the graduation continuing to grow year after year, and what a pleasure to watch you all come down that aisle in these numbers. We're so proud that the celebration continues to acknowledge the accomplishments of our Latine students, and to be able to welcome all of their family members as well. All of us in the Access and Opportunity community, which includes the Office of Academic Multicultural Initiatives, have been delighted to participate in this week's series of student-organized and UAMI-supported cultural celebrations that remind us of the rich tapestries of cultures and languages and histories across this campus and the student body that we are so privileged to serve. I'm especially pleased to be here with so many colleagues from student life and the undergraduate education community, with old friends and members of the faculty and staff, including my 3 assistant vice provosts, Debbie Willis, Marie Ting, and especially here among this particular community of students, faculty, and staff, the wonderful and inspiring Catalina Ormsby. She's hiding in the back there. I'm also really happy to have with me sharing the stage my excellent colleague, John Vasquez, who is Assistant Vice Provost for Student Success and the Senior Director of the Comprehensive Studies program. As we continue to figure out the post-ODE student-facing space, I cannot think of better colleagues to have around the table at my side and really rolling up their sleeves and trying to figure out where we are and where we want to go. To the families, friends, and loved ones here and those cheering from afar, this accomplishment belongs to all of you too. Your support, your sacrifices, and your belief made this moment possible. Thank you for all that you have done. And I hope you'll be hearing that quite a bit across the ceremonies this week. Most of my remarks are for the graduates themselves. This is one of many celebrations this week. From the Michigan Stadium, where we will award our 1 millionth degree, to departmental ceremonies, you are being recognized across this campus, and I hope you're taking time to fully embrace it. Milk it for all it's worth. Savor the sweetness. God knows you've earned it, and that this institution did not always make it easy. My late godmother, Clementine McLean, someone I admired deeply and loved fiercely, used to say that if you want to cultivate wisdom, you should start by asking questions and listening more than you speak. If time and space permitted, I'd love nothing more this evening than to sit together with all of you and ask questions. Questions like, what has this journey really been like for you? Not just the highlights, the friends you made, the awards you received, mastering new concepts and languages, the nerdy but kind of cool professors that you met, and maybe even the national championship you celebrated. But what about the But what about the moments when things didn't go as planned? The classes that didn't click, the times you doubted yourself, the moments when the institution let you down, the days where you just didn't feel like showing up. As someone who specializes in leading collaborative efforts to broaden access, deepen opportunity, and foster student success across the capacious higher ed landscape that is the University of Michigan, it's the second set of questions and answers that intrigue me the most. While graduation ceremonies are often about success, and rightfully so, I want to spend a few minutes asking us to reflect on the F word, the other F word, failure. It probably doesn't find its way into too many graduation addresses, but maybe it should. Nelson Mandela once said, "Don't judge me by my success, judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." That's a powerful reframing. It suggests that failing isn't the opposite of success, it's a part of it. Because if we're honest, success alone doesn't shape us. Character is built somewhere else. It's built in the setbacks. It's built in risking failure and defeat because you refuse to take the easy way out, seeking to do what's right as opposed to what's expedient. So here's my advice to you on the occasion of your commencement. Fail. not carelessly, not without intention, but bravely. Or as Denzel Washington put it, if you don't fail, you're not even trying. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. I think all of us gathered here this evening know the harder truth. Failure, or more broadly, struggle, is not optional in life. No matter how thoughtful we are, how prepared, how talented, we cannot engineer a life that avoids disappointment, loss, or uncertainty. We can do everything right and still encounter moments that shake us. That's not a flaw in the system, that is the system. And while that might sound discouraging, there's something more important on the other side of it. Struggle also has potential. Again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. When things fall apart or when we fall short, it has a way of revealing what really matters to us. It clarifies what we value and where we've placed our confidence and what we're made of. Pressure doesn't just test us, it teaches us. It can humble us. It can deepen our self-awareness. It can make us more compassionate, more grounded, more resilient. It can strip away what doesn't matter and leave behind something stronger, more honest, more durable. But that outcome isn't automatic. Failure can just as easily make people bitter, stuck, disengaged. The difference comes down to how we respond. So what does it mean to respond well? First, we ought not to pretend that we are unaffected. There's a temptation, especially among high achievers such as yourselves, to push through, to keep a stiff upper lip, to act like nothing phases you. Leaders and best. But growth doesn't come from denial. It comes from engagement and being accountable to ourselves and others. When something hurts, acknowledge it, learn from it, sit with it long enough to understand what it's trying to teach you. Second, we need to hold fast to our values, both the ones that we came here with, derived from our families and our cultures, and those we have refined through experiences and judgment along the way. In difficult moments, it's easy to justify shortcuts, to do things that pull you away from who you want to be. Character isn't built when things are easy. It's revealed when things are not. And finally, keep going. The most remarkable thing about all of you here today is not that your path was perfect or easy. It's that you stayed on it, you adjusted, pivoted, you showed up again and again, you learned, recalibrated, and moved forward. That's not just persistence, it's leadership. And you are the leaders the world needs now. Now, you're likely to hear that across ceremonies you attend this week. It's a familiar refrain, and one that institutions like ours return to with some regularity and self-congratulatory ways, especially as we try to claim the credit for your accomplishments. And we will. It can sound cliche at times, you were the leaders we've been waiting for, but that doesn't mean that it isn't also a perfectly correct statement of fact. More than one thing can be true simultaneously. Our world is a hot mess, with rising sea levels, poisonous chemicals accumulating, violent forms of policing, mass incarceration, environmental injustices, social decay, authoritarian politics, and heartbreaking moments of beauty and joy and human solidarity. We don't just need your accomplishments. We need your curiosity. We need your courage. We need your willingness to take risk. And yes, we need your bold and epic failures. Hail to the fail. Try things that might not work. Take paths that aren't guaranteed. Fall down. Get back up again. And when you do, know that you are not starting over, you are starting wiser. My graduation wish for you is that you leave this place as alums, infused with pride, with purpose, with a deep belief that you belong in every space you enter, knowing full well that you have the power to transform those spaces for the better. Thank you for all that you have given to the University of Michigan. Congratulations, class of 2026. Look for me tomorrow at the stadium. I'll be dressed like this. And as always, Go Blue.
Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias, Vice Provost Dillard, for your insightful and courageous words. We really appreciate the message of failure that you have just shared with us. Thank you for helping us celebrate and think complexly and in different and new ways about the experiences of the graduates that we are celebrating this evening, and for all that you have done to continue to fearlessly advance access and opportunity and student success at the University of Michigan. And I have to say that it is amazing that this institution has been faithful to its commitment to matters such as those. Thank you so much. Ahora me da muchísimo gusto darle la bienvenida to welcome tonight's keynote speaker, Dr. Cristina Fullerton Rico. Cristina, un aplauso. Cristina Fullerton Rico is a postdoctoral fellow at the Center for Racial Justice at the University of Michigan. She received her master's and PhD in sociology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and her BA in sociology from Reed College. Her research examines love across borders and creative uses of technology. Specifically, she focuses on the impacts of U.S. immigration policies that lead families to endure uncertainty and long-term separation. Dr. Fullerton Rico argues that effective immigration policy must start with the recognition that every immigrant has at least two home countries and that post-migration international immobility is one of the most significant penalties imposed on undocumented immigrants and mixed-status families. She has published an article about grieving en la jaula de oro and the ways that immigrants honor their loved ones when they cannot attend their funerals in person. Currently, she is writing a book about the experiences of immigrants from Mexico who have aged while being undocumented. Some continue to live in the US, while others find themselves in Mexico for the first time in decades. Overall, her book demonstrates that U.S. immigration policies do not only separate young children from their parents, they also upend the lives of grandparents, parents, grandchildren, and other extended family members on both sides of the border. Accordingly, immigration reform has the potential to benefit not only immigrants, but their large transnational families. Let's put our hands together for Dr. Fullerton Rico.
Bienvenidas, bienvenides, bienvenidos. Benvindas, benvinges, benvindus, and welcome. We don't have time for me to give this speech in 3 languages, but in the program you can find translations of this speech in Español and Portuguese. I hope you can read it in the language that you prefer. I am so honored to be here today. I have to be honest, when I got the email asking me to give this speech, I wasn't just excited, I was also relieved, because it meant that La Celebración wasn't canceled, that it would continue in 2026. That's sadly not something we can take for granted in this historical moment. And at the same time, this is actually the largest Celebración Latina in the history of the University of Michigan. That is powerful. It shows how much spaces like this matter. I want to start by acknowledging the professors and administrators on this stage because they represent the people who keep Latine spaces going at the University of Michigan. Without some of the people on this stage, spaces like the Office of Academic Multicultural Initiatives, La Casa, Puentes, and the Latina Latino Studies program wouldn't even exist. There are professors on this stage who have been here since you could count the number of Latino professors on one hand. And that's still the case for deans. We are proud to have 2 Latino deans at the University of Michigan, Dean Rosario Ceballo of the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, who is the first Latina, and Dean Carlos Francisco Jackson of the Penny W. Stamp School of Art and Design. Thanks to all of these pathmakers, we can contribute to spaces and initiatives like this, while benefiting immensely from the road that has been made for us. Regarding my own path, I can tell you that I have been helped at every step by the programs that previous generations of Latine academics and activists created. I learned to speak English in bilingual and ESL programs in Texas public schools. I won awards in high school that recognized Latine achievements. I was the beneficiary of scholarships and fellowships designed to support Latinas in higher education. Thanks to all of this support, I've been able to write and teach about the hardships that millions of immigrants are forced to endure just because they don't have the right papers. And I've been able to highlight the resilience, joy, and love that families cultivate even when they're separated by borders. Today, I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Center for Racial Justice, which recognizes that public policies too often perpetuate racial inequality and challenges us to consider how to create racial justice. Graduates, you have been here while the University of Michigan closed the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the Office for Health Equity and Inclusion. And while every program, scholarship, and initiative that can be categorized as DEI has faced an uncertain future, with many being eliminated quietly. But this speech is not a eulogy. To borrow words from Wesley Lowery, I don't believe that this is the end of progress. It's a backlash to what people of color have collectively accomplished in this country. The students who helped organize the Celebración came up with a powerful theme. Agionshi, nuestra historia continúa. Adelante, nuestra historia continúa. Onward, our story continues. That is absolutely true, and in times that feel unprecedented, I hope you know how powerful it is to learn about our history. Read and listen to the stories of people who came before you, as you continue to write your own personal story and contribute to the collective history of Latinas, Latinas, and Latinos. In some cases, you will find inspiration, the realization that we have come a long way. In other cases, we may need to follow their blueprints to rebuild the things that are being dismantled now. I had the privilege of attending a meeting with the students on the planning committee for the Celebración, and I left in awe of the students' wisdom. So I want to share just a couple of things that I learned from them. One reflection that stuck with me is the idea that we can be inspired not only by the past, but by the future. A student named Sierra Hurtado talked about how easy it is to limit yourself when you don't see yourself represented. Sierra pointed out that it's important to imagine yourself succeeding and to recognize that as you succeed, you will become the person that others look up to, and you will have the power to open doors for them. It's not easy to be the first person to do something or to be the only person like you in a room. Many of you know this from your experiences here at the University of Michigan. And I'm sorry to say that you're likely going to have more experiences like that after graduating. But when you find yourself outnumbered or underestimated, take Sierra's advice. Imagine the people who will come after you, and consider the possibility that thanks to you, they won't have to work so hard to prove that they deserve to be there. In my own life, I've found myself in the position of being the only Latina in the room many times since going to college. And I have to say that sometimes that feels like an exceptionally heavy mantle to carry. After all, what does it mean to be Latina? I haven't always been Latina. When I was little, I knew that I was from Chihuahua, Mexico. Mexicana, Chihuahuense, these are facts about myself that I have known since before I can remember. And as I grew up, I learned to think about myself as Latina. I don't know exactly when it happened, but it was probably pretty soon after I moved across the border to Texas and started watching Univision. Or in my 3rd grade class, where my teacher was from Puerto Rico and I had a classmate from Chile. Maybe it was at church, meeting a good friend who moved here from Panama, or spending time with my mom's good friend, Paula, a Tejana who told us what it was like for her mom to have the Spanish beaten out of her by school teachers with rulers. She told us how it felt to live through the Chicano movement in the 60s and 70s. So what does it mean that all of us, with all of these different experiences, are Latines? I'm a scholar of Latine studies, so I get to think about this question a lot. And it's a really big question. Latines are even more diverse than the community that my mom and I found when we moved to Texas. Our first language might be Spanish, Portuguese, English, or one of the thousands of languages that predated colonization and are still spoken today, like Nahuatl or Quiché. Given our immense diversity, it's easy to wonder if it even makes sense to group all of us together. Is Latinidad a useful concept? For me, Latinidad is something that I experience on 2 levels. Emotionally, I feel connected to other Latines, to all of you, through food, music, visual art, and humor. But intellectually, Latinidad is a tool. It helps me contend with past and present inequality. The truth is, many of us have benefited from the anti-Black racism that continues to oppress and even erase Afro-Latines from our shared history. Many of us are more closely related to the people who colonized the Americas than we are to indigenous peoples who have suffered, survived, and still fight to take care of the places we consider our homes, from Michigan to La Patagonia. It hurts to admit these things, but facing painful facts is always the first step to making a positive change. And I think grappling with all our commonalities and inequalities is what makes our communities stronger. Looking out at all the graduates, I am certain about one thing that all of you share. You have all chosen to embrace Latinidad. Think about it. This weekend, approximately 14,000 University of Michigan students will be getting their diplomas. 145 of you have chosen to celebrate that here. Graduates, look around you at your fellow graduates and take that in. Each of you has a complex identity. There are so many ways you could be celebrating one of the biggest accomplishments of your life. And yet, you chose to be here. You didn't get here on your own. Each of you has a community that has supported you and guided you. And if I had to guess, I would say that the majority of you have family and friends who taught you to love who you are, who have given you the strength to embrace your identity, your Latino identity, even while studying at a predominantly white institution. That's not easy to do. Some of those friends and family are here with you today, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge your people, all of the people who have given you love and encouragement when you doubted yourselves. At this vast university, you have found yourself here to a space that centers Latinidad. You probably found it by engaging with Latine spaces throughout your time at this university. A lot of these spaces exist beyond the classroom. They're not reflected in your degree or your transcripts, but I believe that they were an important part of your education. That's because spaces like these require us to practice humility, curiosity, and solidarity, values that enrich our lives if we practice them consistently. Humility and curiosity go hand in hand. At their best, Latina community spaces are places where every person can share their own experience, without pretending that it is the only way or the best way to be Latino. These are places where we can go to celebrate our own cultures and to encounter cultures that we've never learned about before. Latina community spaces are also places where we can practice solidarity in many forms. In serious ways, where we say, this isn't a struggle that impacts me directly, but I'm gonna fight alongside you. And in fun ways, like when we say, this isn't a holiday that I grew up celebrating, but I'm gonna celebrate it with you, and I'm going to make sure that the party we throw will be epic. As you go forward, I hope that you continue to find and create spaces like these, and you continue to engage even when doing so is uncomfortable. Speaking of discomfort, Cassandra Negrete, another of the students on the planning committee, asked me to remind you that you have the strength to deal with adversity. She said it beautifully, so I'm just going to repeat what she said. Cassandra said, trust yourself to figure things out. Trust yourself to find comfort amid discomfort. To me, this can mean taking things one step at a time and finding ways to lean on your community as you figure out what to do next. It can mean, it can mean being inspired by art or being inspired to make art. If I can make one more generalization, I have to say that I think Latinas are really good at transforming tragedy into joy through art. Just think about bachata, for example. I don't know how many of you have thought very deeply about bachata lyrics, but I'm married to a non-Hispanic white. So I often have to translate songs for him. And bachata songs say things like, my wife left me for my best friend. My friends have abandoned me. There's no one I can trust. They're very tragic songs about heartbreak, and they're also so much fun to dance. Last week, I was in Chicago, and I went to a piñata store where I saw piñatas shaped like ice agents. It can be jarring to encounter art like this, right? And when I try to explain things like this to my suegros, they are confused. But there are so many examples in our cultures of art as catharsis, a way to laugh at our fears and injustice and to find the strength to endure. I don't know if my examples are anything close to what Cassandra had in mind, but I am certain that she didn't mean you should find comfort by shrinking your goals and making your dreams smaller. I was fortunate to have Cassandra as a student, so I can tell you for sure that is not how she moves through the world. My biggest piece of advice is for you to have the audacity to make your goals bigger, even when everything around you is pushing you to dream small, to settle, or to focus only on your immediate needs. When we confront facts about climate change, war, deportation, and extreme wealth inequality, it's very easy to despair. And I get it. I actually have this thought that I'm embarrassed to admit to you, but I think it pretty regularly. I think, maybe I can't help make the world better. Maybe I should just make things good for me. but I also have this nagging feeling, a little voice that says, I know I can do more. I know I can do better. And when I sit with that thought, I remember that it is never just about me. It's about being part of a collective effort to improve life for all of us. That can take infinite forms, and it's something that we never do alone. So what might that look like? Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, this is what happens when you talk with your hands. Maybe it means establishing a cooperative where workers share profits. Maybe it means engineering systems and tools that make life more sustainable. Maybe it means making art that makes art worth living. Many of you are going to do things that the rest of us can't even imagine right now. What is certain is that we are all in this space together because of generations of gente Latina who dared to dream, demand, and create spaces where Latinidad is centered. They had aspirations that went beyond their personal ambitions. They wanted you, all of you, to feel supported and celebrated. And just by being here, you are part of that legacy. Tonight, I hope you look at the beautiful moment that we are making together and trust that you can help create more spaces like this one. As you go forward, know that when you want to work to uplift your community, you will find people willing to work in solidarity with you. When you make a path for yourself, you can make sure it is a path that others can follow. And when you need comfort, remember that you can always turn to the people who love and believe in you, and you can turn to art that inspires you to keep going. May you carry all of this with you wherever you go next. Congratulations, felicidades y parabéns.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Thank you for making us laugh. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for speaking the truth. Because speaking the truth is part of what La Celebración Latina is about. Speaking the truth is part of what our classes and getting a degree from the University of Michigan is about. Ahora, it is my distinct pleasure to present the award that Cristina just knocked over. The Celebración Latina Circle Award. Each year, graduating students nominate a University of Michigan faculty or staff member whose care, commitment, and presence have made a meaningful difference for the Latine community. And as you can see, they get a wonderful recognition. These are individuals who show up in ways that often go beyond their roles, offering guidance, advocacy, and support that help students navigate their time on campus and move forward with confidence. From these graduating student nominations, one individual is selected as this year's award recipient, representing the collective appreciation of the graduating class. In recognition of transformative leadership in advancing Latine student success, this year, the Circle Award will be presented to University of Michigan alum and interim co-director of the Office of Academic Multicultural Initiatives, Héctor Galván. Un fuerte aplauso para Héctor. Héctor Galván was raised in a working-class family in the city of Detroit. He is the proud son of Mexican immigrant parents who came to the United States in pursuit of opportunity and a better future for their family. As a first-generation college graduate, Héctor carries his story into his work every day. His work is rooted in opening doors and creating spaces for students to feel seen, supported, and thrive. Grounded in care, collaboration, and purpose, Hector is dedicated to cultivating academic success and a sense of belonging at the University of Michigan. He approaches this work with humility and intention, viewing it not only as a responsibility, but as a privilege. He aims to help students not only move through the university, but to leave it transformed with a clearer sense of who they are and where they are going. Please join me in welcoming Hector Galván to the podium to receive the Circle Award.
Good evening, everyone. It is truly, truly, truly an absolute honor to be here with you all tonight. To stand here and witness the largest graduating Latina class at the University of Michigan. Round of applause for you all. To witness this event come together, to soon witness the most Latina PhDs that are going to be on this stage. One of them, selfishly, who is one of my closest and dearest friend, Ruben Cap. I'm so incredibly proud of you. To be on this stage surrounded by these amazing faculty, staff, administrators who day in and day out show up to support you. They're here because they're incredibly proud of you and all that you have accomplished. Round of applause for these amazing people. To be recognized in this space by a community that I care so much about, a community that has shaped so much of who I am, truly means more than I can put into words. When I think about how I got here, when I think about how we got here, I think about how unlikely this moment may have once felt. I grew up in the city of Detroit in a working class family that honestly didn't have much. We didn't have access to the kind of resources, tools, or knowledge that make navigating a place like this feel clear or sometimes even possible. College was something that felt ambiguous to me growing up. It was something that we had to figure out as we went along. I stand here as a proud son of Mexican immigrants who came to this country in search of something better. They gave everything they had so I can have a chance to succeed. And when I arrived at the University of Michigan, I carried that with me. I carried a lot of pride, but I also carried a lot of uncertainty. I was trying to figure out where I fit in, if I belong, and how to move through a system that I had never been taught to navigate. What changed my life were the people and the spaces that met me along the way. Offices like UMi, Mesa, CSP, mentors who made space, staff and faculty who shared the kind of knowledge that isn't always written down, but makes all the difference. Communities that reminded me time and time again that I belonged here, even when I questioned it myself. That kind of support doesn't just help you succeed. It fundamentally transforms who you are as a person. It changes how you see yourself. It gives you language, confidence, and clarity. It shifts the way you walk into a room and whether you feel like you belong there. And now, to serve as co-director of UMi, I don't take that responsibility lightly. I once walked into that office as a student trying to find my way. Now I carry the responsibility and the privilege of ensuring our office does everything it can to be of service, helping make that path clear for students at the university and making sure that no one feels like they're doing it alone. All this to say, this year certainly has not been easy. It has asked a lot out of all of us. As graduates, I know it has asked a lot of you. And for me, this last year and a half has unfolded in ways I could have never predicted and in ways that deeply have changed who I am. I had always hoped one day to step into a role like this, but when the moment came, it came much faster than I expected. And if I'm being honest, There were moments whether I questioned whether I was ready, whether I had what it takes, whether I could carry the responsibility and truly do right by the students we were tasked to serve. And what I learned over the last year and a half is that leadership has actually very little to do with titles, and it never waits for you to truly feel ready. It calls your name anyway, and it asks you to step forward when needed, whether ready or not. So when my doubts started creeping in, I learned to quiet the noise. I learned to ground myself in the values that brought me here today, to lead with care, with intention, and with a genuine commitment to serve you, our students. And through it all, I had to remind myself, we come from people who arrived in this country with very little, people who were called to step forward before they truly felt ready. People who built something out of nothing. People who carved out paths not for comfort, but out of necessity for their families and for all of us who would follow. It wasn't that things suddenly became easy. It's that I learned I could rise to meet the moment, even when the moment felt heavy. And that's something, and this is the most important part, I hope all of you carry with you. There will be moments where you question yourselves, where you feel like you're stepping into something bigger than you. Step into it anyway. Trust that you belong there. Trust that you will grow into it. Because when I look at all of you, I see that kind of leadership. You are graduating from one of the most prestigious institutions of higher learning in this country. You are doing this, many of you, as first-generation college students, working-class families, people that had to carve a path on your own. You leave this space carrying more than a degree. You carry the impact of how you showed up, how you built community, how you made space, but most importantly, how you held one another up. In rooms that weren't always designed with you in mind, you didn't disappear. You learn how to stand in them, how to shape them, and how to leave them changed for generations to come. And as you leave this place, that doesn't stop. You will continue to lead in every space you enter, in your careers, in your communities, in your families, not by shrinking yourself, but by standing fully in who you are, because you are part of something so much bigger. You are part of a legacy of Latina leaders who have come through these doors, leaders who carried their families, their cultures, and their stories with them and used them as strength. And now you carry that forward. You are shaping what this country becomes through the lives you'll touch, the spaces you'll enter, and the paths you'll create long after this moment has passed. And I hope your time here has been more than just earning a degree. I hope it has been transformative. I hope it has given you not just knowledge, but access to spaces, to opportunities, into a future that once felt out of reach. I hope your time here has given you not just opportunity, but a sense of direction, not just a seat at the table, but the confidence to speak once you are there. And I hope you leave here knowing this: deeply and without question, you belong in every room you walk into. Let me say that one more time. And I hope you leave here knowing this: deeply and without question, you belong in every room you walk into. Supporting you all really just isn't part of my job description. It's personal. It's so deeply personal. Because I know what it's like to come from nothing and still have to build your own path forward. And I know how powerful it is when someone steps in and reminds you that you don't have to navigate this journey alone. Thank you for allowing me to be part of that journey. Thank you for this incredible honor. To the graduates, a deep congratulations for everything you have accomplished. Go forward with confidence, take up space, lead with purpose, And wherever life takes you, never forget you earned your place here, and you'll earn your place wherever you go. I love you all so much, and forever and always, go blue.
Muchísimas gracias, Héctor. Another round of applause for Héctor Galván, the winner of this year's La Celebración Latina Circle Award. You have had and will continue to have a tremendous impact on our students, and I'm very happy that we were able to recognize all of your achievements today. Now we have a very exciting moment in tonight's program. To deliver a message to the members of her fellow graduating class, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my former student, Cassandra Negrete, as our student speaker of this evening. Cassandra will be graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, Latino Studies, and Spanish from the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. She is a dedicated student leader who has made meaningful contributions to the Latine community on campus through her leadership, presence, and commitment to others. Please help me welcome Cassandra Negrete to the podium.
Okay. Mami, es que me dijeron que dibujara un circo, pero creo que no les entendí. At the age of 4, I did not know one single word of English. When my teacher asked me to draw a circle, I drew a circus. My teacher laughed at me as I honestly gave her the most confident blank stare, as I didn't have the words to even communicate with her. But that experience did not happen by accident. You see, my great-grandfather was brought to the United States to work on the farms in California through the Bracero program. Generations of sacrifice led my family from Mexico to the United States, and this is where my story begins. I would see how my father would leave the house before sunrise, working long hours so that our family could survive. And when the school day came to an end, I went back home with my mommy, who was figuring out English right beside me. 2 people under the same roof, learning the same language at different ages with different resources for the same reason. English as a necessity to survive. By the 1st grade, I still could not read at grade level. My parents were told it'd probably be best to hold me back. I'd probably be falling behind if I didn't meet that benchmark. And maybe that was true. But my parents saw something in me that a report card could not gauge. They knew I had what it took to push forward. They pushed me forward, and I never looked back. As years progressed, I remember spending hours at our kitchen table because we didn't have a desk, working on homework I did not understand. I would look up and find my mom sitting across from me with her own stack of flashcards, her own frustrations, studying for the exam that would change our lives, her citizenship exam. And then mi papá would walk through the door after a long day of work and say, "Es que mira mis manos." I vividly remember seeing his hands, blisters in between his fingers, dark oils all over his hands. We were all struggling. We were all figuring it out at the same table. Many nights I'd quiz my mom on the 3 branches of government while I wasn't sure if I honestly understood them myself. Both of us reaching for something better. Because I had made myself a promise that I was going to become an attorney and retire my parents so that I never had to work like that again. So yes, I am that girl who wasn't really able to read at benchmark in first grade, who would take WIDA for years, but I'm also that person standing here in front of you today telling you this. El que quiere, puede, y nosotros podemos. Porque cuando alguien se propone algo en la vida, nadie ni nada podrá impedirlo. Our parents came to this country with nothing and gave us everything. They believed in us when we could not yet believe in ourselves. And you know, the most important thing my parents taught me had nothing to do with school. It was to be kind and to have a good heart. Lo más importante que me enseñaron mis padres no fue nada con el estudio. Fue ser una buena persona con un buen corazón. And honestly, we as a community will always find a reason to push forward no matter what the world throws at us. And we must also acknowledge what is happening beyond these walls. Immigrants break their backs for this country, and they are often overlooked. They feed our culture, they build our country, they push our country forward. We cannot ignore what is happening around us. Families are being separated, children are being taken, and I refuse to stand up here and pretend that that is normal because it is not. So I ask this. Let us use the privilege of this education not to distance ourselves from the struggle, but to step closer to it. And let me leave you with this. This diploma is not just yours. It belongs to every person who believed in you, who sacrificed for you, and who made it possible for you to be standing here. And now it is your turn. Go back. Open doors. Be the person in the room who holds the door open instead of letting it close behind you. Make sure that kid who couldn't read in the first grade has someone out there fighting for you the way that your parents, your community fought for you. It might take a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years, but it's going to happen. The uncertainty is real. The grief of leaving this place is real. But so is this. We have survived uncertainty before, we will do it again. And this time, we have each other. Primeramente a Dios, a mis padres, a mis hermanas, a mis mejores amigas, amigos, y a todas nuestras familias que están presentes aquí hoy. Las que nos apoyan desde lejos y a las que desde el cielo nos siguen guiando. Gracias por cada sacrificio, por cada esfuerzo y por su amor incondicional, porque sin ustedes esto no sería posible. Gracias por creer en todos nosotros. I'm almost done. To every person in this room, I see you. The sleepless nights, the shifts worked, the sacrifices made in silence. It was not easy, but you are here and you did it. And you know I'm not the only one who has a story like this. A lot of us do. And when we came to U of M, you see, we carried a lot more than just our backpacks. We carried our family's hope, their dreams, our dreams. And also for some of us being the first in our families to achieve something like this. And along with that, the first to sit in these classrooms, to wear this cap and gown, and to prove that we belonged here. And if you are also the eldest child, you know you carry not only your own ambition, but the expectations of everyone who came before you and everyone who will come after you. So today, we not only celebrate our degrees, we celebrate every obstacle we overcame to get here. Every classroom where we were the only Latino, Latina, Latine in. Every moment, we were told directly or indirectly that this place was not meant for us. And we showed up anyway. Many of us as first-generation, low-income Latina students were often defined in terms of what we lacked. You know, my parents once said, estudia y échale ganas, para que no te quedes como nosotros, para que no seas como uno. Pero la verdad, mamá y papá, es que yo siempre quiero ser como ustedes, porque yo sé que mis padres, mi familia y comunidad son ricas. Ricas en fortaleza, ricas en fuerza y amor, because I knew that my family and community were rich in wisdom, resilience, and strength. We are resilient people. Life will keep hitting us, that is guaranteed, but so is this. We get back every single time, and we are not afraid to fail, because without failure, there are no lessons. No matter how many closed doors we face, we must always try to keep them open, because when the world gives you two options, you go out there and you create the third. Sigue adelante porque tú eres capaz de todo, because you are capable of everything and anything. And remember, when the world gives us two options, we go out there and we create the third. Love will always be greater than hate. Choose that, lead with that always. Gracias a mi familia y a todos quienes me ayudaron en el camino. Sí se puede, échenle ganas y sin miedo. Felicidades, clase de 2026. Congratulations, class of 2026.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. Muchísimas gracias, Cassandra, for your message, your inspiring words. Cassandra was my student in American Culture 213. I know you're all graduating, but perhaps you can send some students to Introduction to Latina, Latino Studies, or to many of the other classes that we teach where we talk about these topics. We talk about these very pressing, important, and urgent things. Y ahora, me da tanto gusto decir que we have now arrived at the moment of the evening that you have all been waiting for. It is now time to honor our graduating class of 2026. Para empezar, to begin with, we will first recognize our undergraduate students, then celebrate our master's degree recipients, and finally, we will conclude with the traditional hooding ceremony to honor our newly minted doctoral and terminal degree students who will be receiving the highest of academic degrees. For our doctoral degree recipients, once it comes time to honor you, please be sure to hold your hood in your arm when you come to the stage. If your advisor is present this evening, we cordially invite them to join us on stage to perform the hooding. However, if your faculty advisor is not present, Dr. Angela Dillard will be honored to hood you on behalf of your advisor. Additionally, we kindly ask the doctoral students do not leave the stage after your hooding. Doctoral students, please remain on stage until all of our doctoral degree recipients are recognized and a group photo is taken. Graduates, we kindly ask for you to please remain seated until our student volunteers prompt your row to begin lining up to cross the stage. I will now hand it off to Alexa Lynch, who will be, Alexa Lynch will be reading the names of our graduates, and Professor Dr. Ashley Lucas will place the Latine stoles on our graduates. So Alexa and Ashley, it's all yours.
Muy buenas noches. Me llamo Alexa. Yo ahorita trabajo en el Colegio de Literatura, Ciencias y Artes. My name's Alexa. I work in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts. But a few years ago, I was where you all were for la Celebración Latina. Y hace unos años me tocó a mí también sentar aquí en la Celebración Latina. Y siempre era nuestro sueño que llenáramos este teatro. Yo creo que en mi año ni estábamos llenos aquí en primer piso y hasta veo que aquí hay filas afuera de esas puertas. Entonces, qué orgullo también estar todos juntos. So I just remember a few years ago, we barely filled out the first floor. Now we got lines out the second floor. We love to see it. So I would like to invite the undergraduates up to begin announcing. Okay, presentando Cassandra Negrete, Bachelor's in Political Science and Latina Studies. Sergio Lopez, Bachelor's in Engineering and majoring in Aerospace Engineering and minoring in Physics. Alondra Larios, Bachelor in LSA in Biology and Gender and Health Studies. Brianna Areli Ochoa, Bachelor's in the School of Nursing. Regina Paguada, Bachelor from the School of Nursing. Jasmine Desiree Paredes, Bachelor of Science in Biology. Ashley Junuin Xochimanca Guerrero, Bachelor from Political Science and Communications. Karen Menes, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Arlette Morales, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Emma Gonzalez, Bachelor of Science in Biopsychology, Cognition, and Neuroscience. Eileen Betancourt, Bachelor in Economics. Glynis Lince Mencho Ramos, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, School of Nursing. Sandra Jarquin Lopez, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Celine Torres, Bachelor in Political Science, Communication, and Media, and minor in American Culture. Edna Rosas Aguilera, Bachelor in Film, Television, and Media. Carla Vega, Bachelor of the School of Information. Brenda Garcia, Bachelor of Political Science. Cielo Jimenez, Bachelor of Arts in Economics. Rachel Arroyo, Bachelor of the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science. George Ortega, Bachelor in Computer Engineering. Christopher Bustamante, Bachelor in Economics. Axel Mar Pulido, Bachelor of Architecture from the Taubman College of Architecture. Fabiola Castaneda Cardosa, Bachelor in Biopsychology, Cognition, and Neuroscience. Natalia Lobo, Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. Jessica Rubalcaba, Bachelor of the School of Nursing. Liliana Zamora, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Amarilis Acosta Oliva, Bachelor in Political Science. Emma Robledo, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Elizabeth Jaramillo, Bachelors of Sociology and Social Work. Melanie Cruz, Bachelor of Sociology and Latino-Latina Studies. Leslie Treto, Bachelor of Neuroscience. Nicole Bermudez Alvarado, Bachelor of Biology, Health, and Society. Darren Ramirez, Bachelor of Science in Biology, Health, and Society. Getsemani Gonzalez, Bachelor in Spanish, Sociology, and Social Work. Rodrigo Sandino, Bachelor's in Economics. Lucas Navia, Bachelor of Science in Sociology, Health and Medicine, and Latin American and Caribbean Studies. Aranza Yasmin Stanton, Bachelor of the Penny Stamp School of Art and Design in Art and Design. Daniela Mora, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a minor in Law, Justice, and Social Change. Kiara Roble Laines, Bachelor of Science in Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. Gabriela Yvonne Lopez Salgado, Bachelor of Science and Engineering in Computer Science. Sasha Lee, Bachelor in Science in Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Georgina Ayala, Bachelor of Neuroscience from LSA. Ana Agustin Mazariegos, Bachelor's in Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Emma Cital, Bachelor's in Anthropology and History. David Servin, Bachelor of Science in Biomolecular Sciences. Alexander Calderon, Bachelor of Science in Public Health Sciences. Jasmine Arechiga, Bachelor in Biology, Health, and Society. Dani Sanchez, Bachelor of Arts in American Culture. Frida Salgado, Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Latino-Latina Studies. Cristina Alisa Aguilar, Bachelor's in Psychology and American Culture. Marisa Jordan Galarza, Bachelor's in English and Creative Writing. Special shout out to the Residential College. Y felicidades a la familia, por supuesto. Y ahora presentando a Rihanna Serwinski, Bachelor's of Biopsychology, Cognition, and Neuroscience in German. Victoria Brown, Bachelor's in Industrial and Operations Engineering, College of Engineering. Jaire Lopez Quiroz, Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science. Carolina Isabel Lopez, Bachelor of Arts in Public Health and Community and Global Health. Valeria Karina Marin Gallo, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Daisy Ruiz, Bachelor of Arts in Communication and Media. Natalie Torres, Bachelor's in Biomolecular Science and Spanish. Adileni Vital Flores, Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience. Ricardo Aquino Gonzalez, Bachelor's in Political Science. Ashley Smith, Bachelor's in International Studies and Spanish. Ana Roa, Bachelor's of Science, Chemical Engineering. Lisbeth Gonzalez, Bachelor's of Civil Engineering. Gabriela Avitia, Bachelor's in the School of Nursing. Kenya Garza, Bachelor's in Economics. Asaf Martinez Cardosa, Bachelor's in Economics. Emily Yunda Reiher, Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. Kiana Fraga Albuja, Bachelor's in Nursing with a minor in Population Health in a Global Context. Delilah Isabel Castillo, Bachelor's in Psychology and Women's Gender Studies. Saya Luz Matos, Bachelor's in Nursing. Kimberly Isel Diaz Bustillo, Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a minor in Community Action and Social Change. Pearl Evans, Bachelor's in Anthropology, Human Origins, Biology, and Behavior. Claudia Zacarias, Bachelor's in Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Sofia Urbina, Bachelor's in Engineering, Industrial and Operations Engineering. Beyonce Cruz, Bachelor's of Science in Aerospace Engineering. Thomas Galagarza, Bachelor's in Philosophy, Politics, and Economics. Alicia Piacek, Bachelor's in Creative Writing and Literature. Lorena Sierra Reyes, Bachelor's of Science, Computer Science. Tonancy Mendoza Alvarado, Bachelor's of Science, Biopsychology, Cognition, Neuroscience. Valeria Rivera, Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology and Anthropology. Elena Fernandez, Bachelor's of Science in Biopsychology, Cognition and Neuroscience, and Cognitive Science. Yasmin Karina Landero Motus, Bachelor's in Biopsychology, Cognition and Neuroscience with a minor in Law, Justice, and Social Change. Luis Barcenas, Bachelor's in Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Brianna Gonzalez, Bachelor's in Biopsychology, Cognition and Neuroscience, and Creative Writing. Kimberly Montoya, Bachelor's of Science in Psychology, Gender, and Health. Brenda Gonzalez, Bachelor's in Creative Writing and Gender and Health. Hani Izquierdo, Bachelor's in Psychology, minoring in Community Action and Social Change. Anaí Peralta Sorto, Bachelor's in Communications and Media, minor in Community Action and Social Change. Nazaret Sanchez, Bachelor's in Sociology with a submajor in Law, Justice, and Social Change. Atenea Chavez Contreras, Bachelor's in Engineering and Aerospace Engineering. Barbara Diaz Orsi, Bachelor's in International Studies. Leila Santillan, Bachelor's in Comparative Literature. Isabela Santana, Bachelor's in English and Latin American and Caribbean Studies. Cristian Loredo Duran, Bachelor of Arts at the Ford School of Public Policy. Jocelyn Cortez Samano, Master's in the School of Social Work and Community Change. I just kept going. I didn't even realize we were at the master's students already. So shout out to our first master's grad that we're announcing now. Porque hay algunas personas que dicen, no, 4 años en la escuela no es suficiente, hay que seguir adelante, hay que seguir con la maestría. Entonces ahorita estamos reconociendo los que están graduando con sus maestrías, ¿ok? Eso. Ahora, presentando Paloma del Toro with her master's of Ford School of Public Policy. Cris Genaro Medina, Master of Social Work in Management and Leadership. Alexis Camarena Torres, Masters of Science in Information, UX, Research and Design. David de la Rosa, Masters in Higher Education. Elisa Esther Vega, Masters of the School of Education, Higher Education. Joanna Rivera, Masters of the School of Education and Higher Education. Brenda Esquivel Rivera, Masters of Science in Information in User Experience Design. Ruben Alirio Fonseca Castro, Masters of Science in the College of Engineering and Robotics. Jessica Alvarez, Master of Arts in the School of Education and Educational Leadership and Policy. Emily Jimenez Andrade, Masters in Chemistry. Patrick Mullen-Coyoy, Master of Science in Information from the School of Information. Andrea Gonzalez Jimenez, Masters of Public Health and Health Behavior, Health Equity. Lorena Rivera Rincon, Masters of the School of Education and Educational Studies. Valeria Castañeda Saucedo, Masters of the Institute for Social Research in Survey and Data Science. Jose Peláez, Masters of Public Policy from the Ford School of Public Policy. Amber Garcia, Master of Public Policy and Master of Public Health. Ezequiel Medina, Master of Public Health and Master of Social Work. Julia Magallanes, Master of Science in Information in UX Design and Research. Sebastián Abate, Master of Social Work and Community Change. Abel Said Nájera Campos, Executive MBA from the Ross School of Business. Y ahora tenemos el grupo de doctorados. So, para la gente que todavía no se cansaron de la escuela y de los estudios y quieren seguir, so for those who wanted to continue their studies, we are now recognizing the doctoral graduates. Starting off, exactly, woo! Ok, entonces, por ahora y en adelante, reconociendo a la doctora Rani Rios Martínez, Doctor of Philosophy in Higher Education. Reconociendo doctora Davinia Rodríguez Wilhelm, Doctor of Higher Education from the School of Education. Reconociendo ahora Dr. Ruben Kapp with his Doctor in Higher Education from the School of Education. Presentando Dr. Christopher Ayala with his Doctorate of Applied Physics. Que se escucha desde afuera. Y acuérdense que si estamos aquí para celebrar, all right? We're here to celebrate. So thank you for all your cheers and your love and your support. Every single person in this room is incredibly, incredibly proud of you seated here. And just know that you will always have us in your corner wherever you go afterwards. So I will pass it on over back to Dr. Larry LaFontaine-Stokes. Felicidades.
Thank you, Alexa. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much. Un gran aplauso, another round of applause for our graduates and for their families. Para sus familias, para toda la comunidad que se hace más fuerte con la educación, los talentos y los grandes esfuerzos de nuestros jóvenes tan brillantes. At this moment, I would like to welcome back to the stage Dr. Ruben Kapp, President of the University of Michigan Latino Alumni Association. Ruben Kapp is a program officer at the Kresge Foundation. Ruben supports Kresge's education program to increase college access and success for marginalized students. Before joining the foundation in 2023, Ruben served as research assistant, college success coach, and senior admissions representative at the University of Michigan. He also previously worked as a campaign fundraiser associate and held public policy fellowships with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus at the U.S. Department of State and on Capitol Hill. Originally from Saginaw, Michigan, a triple minted Michigan Wolverine celebrating his PhD, Ruben holds a bachelor's degree in public policy, a master's degree in higher education, and now as a PhD in higher education at U of M. Please join me in welcoming Ruben Kapp.
Whew, that was great. I mean, I have to shout out to the undergrads because it's cool that I got my PhD, but to hear the degrees that you got, that's just unbelievable. We're very proud of all of you. So I know that I stand between drinks or food. I don't think there's drinks, I'm sorry. I stand between the music and the food and all that fun, so I'll try to be brief. Good evening and congratulations. Last year, I was actually at the same stage, and I told the graduates last year two things. I mean, I made two bold predictions. One, I told the crowd, I said it would be great to see if this year, that we would fill this auditorium. And if you look around, and as I'm sitting here on stage, you can see that there are folks standing on the balcony level. And I know folks here in the audience will say, we've never done that before. And that is that's attributed to all the work that you've done. So congratulations to all of you. I think it's safe to say that next year we're going to have to find a bigger auditorium. We're definitely going to have to do that. The second prediction that I made, I told the students that, hey, I'm about 1 year away, and next year I'm going to join all of you. Obviously, they graduated, but next year I would join the next class on stage. And sure enough, 1 year later, yes, I graduated. And now I feel that since my predictions from last year came true, that it only makes sense for me to go home and play the lotto tonight or something, right? My name is Ruben Kapp, and I am chair of the University of Michigan Latino Alumni, also known as UMLA, and yes, now a triple Wolverine. When I came to campus at 18 years old, I never thought that would ever happen, and sure enough, through years of work, I'm here. So tonight, in addition to encourage you to join UMLA with the few minutes I do have, I do want to share a quick story. And this was a story that I intended to share during my own dissertation defense, but I was unable to do so. What happened is one of my committee members was late, and it kind of stalled my dissertation, so I couldn't actually have time with my audience. So for those who don't know how it works, like when you do your dissertation, when you defend, there's a moment when your committee will step out. So you do your defense, and they deliberate. And during that time, you have no idea what they're talking about. And you're just kind of sitting there in a little bit of awkward silence. And some PhD folks would do a slideshow or tell stories or answer questions about their research. And for me, I didn't know what I would do. I thought maybe I would do a slideshow. Maybe I would open up for a few questions, or I don't know, maybe play some music. I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I started thinking, I really started reflecting about those who had sacrificed before me and the shoulders of the folks who I had stood on throughout my life journey. I thought about my grandfather and the sacrifices he endured. I thought about, very similar to our undergraduate student who shared about her father's hands. My grandfather's hands were full of dirt. He had worked in the fields. It was kind of common for him. It was very common for him to have dirty hands from growing fruits and vegetables, and he'd have catalyst or hands that were broken from just driving the 18-wheeler semi that he would drive to support his 8 children. And then I remembered another vivid memory that I had of my grandfather. It just kind of came into play, and I'm wondering if maybe it came into play for all the things that were happening in society today. And so tonight, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly share that memory or that story with you that I didn't get to share at my dissertation defense. To add some context, my grandfather was born in a small town right outside of San Antonio, Texas. His family had settled in Texas many, many years before Texas was even a state. At that time, it was still considered part of Mexico. At a young age, my grandfather and his father had worked as migrant workers. And again, we see some similar themes here, and that's not by coincidence, right? He would make the long journey with his father to and from Michigan, depending on the season, to pick, to get money, right? And so year in and year out, my grandfather would make this journey across the United States. And over time, as he started to learn English and got more familiar with the farm workers in Michigan, he would have his friends and friends of friends, many who were undocumented or migrant workers, who were just seeking work in Michigan. He would bring them to Michigan to find work. He would do this for many years. He would make many trips. And during that time, he would encounter a lot of racism and discrimination on even the restaurants that they would stop in or even on the farms that they worked on. So after saving enough money, he bought a few acres of his own land in a small farm in a city called Carson City, Michigan. I'm sure no one's ever heard of this city. It's a small, small town right outside Lansing, Michigan. And on his farm, he would continue to help others find work. He would provide a place for folks to stay. He would help them. He would give them food. He would give them his produce that he had grown from his hands. And when he started getting a better command of English, he had only had a third-grade education, he would help some of those folks with their paperwork or direct them in the right way to become U.S. citizens. Growing up, I remember my grandfather would take my brothers to his farm. And, we'd sit in the middle of his truck, and he would let us change the gears on his truck. And I don't think we wore seatbelts back then. And my mom's in the second balcony. She's probably worried. Mijo didn't have his seatbelt on going to Carson City. But I would sit in between my grandmother and my grandfather, and we would just play with the stick shift on his Chevy red truck, And so one night my grandfather was driving back from Carson City to Saginaw, and he had us in the front seat of the truck. It was a late night, and in order to drive from Carson City to Saginaw, you had to take the back roads. And so my grandfather was driving, and I remember I was falling asleep on my grandmother's arms when I suddenly saw, I heard or saw these flashing lights, the police, like red and blue bright lights. The police had pulled my grandfather over. And immediately I felt a deep sense of fear and anxiety. In the back, at that time, my grandfather had two of his closest friends, two of his workers who worked with him. And for the purpose of the story, I don't know the names of those folks, those two men. All I know is that they would work with my grandfather on his farm. And so for this story, I'm going to just refer to them as Luis and Miguel, because I don't know their names. But I remember they were hardworking folks. They were kind and hardworking. They were good friends with my grandfather and my grandmother, and they were like family. And so I remember the police officers come to each side of the truck, one on each side. They were holding their large flashlights flashing into the truck, and they were asking my grandfather a lot of questions. And then I remember them flashing the flashlight in the back of my grandfather's truck. So he had a back, like camper style, so you could see if you flashed through the windows, but you couldn't obviously just see unless you opened it up. And I just remember the sense of fear and hoping that Luis and Miguel, who were in the back seat, wouldn't be spotted or taken. And so my grandfather held his ground. He was very stubborn. He didn't drink. He just told them, like, hey, I've had a long day of working on the fields. I'm very tired, and, there's nothing to worry about here. And they did let my grandfather go, and fortunately, they never opened the cabin of the back truck. And Luis and Miguel were never taken away or apprehended, and we made it back to Saginaw safely. And so this memory just came into my mind just out of the blue. I don't know, I was just kind of hanging clothes, and this vivid memory just came up. And I was thinking, this is the story that I would like to share during my dissertation defense, that, despite everything that our community has gone through lately, at first it was a sense of a negative reaction of what had happened to Luis and Miguel, and I thought to myself, are they okay, or where did they end up going, and are they safe, and did they have family? That was really just what came to mind. And then I had to change and have a positive mindset, and I started thinking that, despite everything that's happened in the past year or so, and I couldn't bear to come to terms with the fact that something negative may have happened to Luis and Miguel. I couldn't stomach that. And so I told myself, I said, I bet you Luis and Miguel are thriving. I hope that they have loving families. I bet you that they have grandchildren. As a matter of fact, I bet they too probably have grandchildren who are walking across the stage at a University of Michigan or Stanford or UCLA. And so I also started thinking too, if my grandfather or my grandmother or Luis or Miguel were here in this auditorium today, they would be overwhelmed with a sense of pride and joy. I think that they would look at all of you and just feel like, yeah, exactly. They would be proud of your accomplishments. And for me, it made me think that it was the seeds of my grandfather that he planted many years ago that brought life-changing opportunities for me. And so, all this said, it made me think about the shoulders of the folks that we stand on and who come before you. I stand on the shoulders of my mother, who stands on the shoulders of her father, my grandfather. And in doing so, I've been able to touch the glass ceiling of opportunity. But when I look at all of you and I see all the degrees that were awarded today, I see that not only have you all been able to touch that glass ceiling, you've all shattered that ceiling of opportunity, and you'll continue to shoot for the stars. I'm so inspired by all of you and your accomplishments, and I know that all of you will keep going. Which brings me to my closing. Our community's had a rough year. We've talked about this. We've seen it on social media and television. We've endured it the last year or two. And one thing's for sure, that our people aren't thieves, they're not cheaters, we're not evil, and we sure as heck aren't stealing American jobs. Rather, our people have endured years of discrimination and hateful rhetoric so that their children and grandchildren can get a shot at the American dream, just like my grandparents and their loved ones. Heck, all of you are the American dream. I'm looking at it right now. And when I'm in a room like this, I really feel it. I feel like we can tackle any challenge before us, especially when we come together. And I'll be honest with you, there were times when I thought about quitting my PhD. I had already gotten a job, I had bought a house, I had a kid, and I thought I had won Monopoly or something, right? But then I would look at my two little girls who are in the room tonight. Juliet and Alina. I was reminded that I had to continue and finish for them. My grandparents and my parents had sacrificed too much for me to give up. And so when you all graduate from the University of Michigan, your job isn't done. You have one final assignment that will continue for many years, and your job is to lead and encourage others to attend college, whether it's your siblings, nephews, or nieces, or someday maybe your own children. Your job is to continue to pave a way for those who follow, and we owe it to our ancestors for that. And so this is why it's important. I'll tie it back to the association, I promise. This is why it's important to join our association. We need to look out for each other. But most of all, we need to cultivate a community that honors our ancestors, uplifts one another, and creates a space where we can thrive. I ran for president to do this, to build a fabric that is unbreakable, a community that is welcoming, a community that is loving, a community that will follow you even after you leave the University of Michigan. Because when we come together, we can build something special. Now, as I wrap up, there's one more thing that we have to do, and this is a tradition that we've done for many, many years at Las 11. We haven't done it yet, so I get to do it with y'all. I want you, let me tell you the instructions first, the PhD, right? In a moment, I'm going to ask all of the graduates to stand, and I want you to turn and look directly at the folks, whether your family or friends, the person who made the difference or whose shoulders you stand on that has allowed you to get to where you are today. And I want you to thank them, because without them, we wouldn't be here. And so I'm going to ask all the graduates to please stand and turn directly to those folks. It might be hard to see the folks on the second level. You can hug each other too. You all deserve it. I'm so proud of all of you, and I promise I'll wrap up because I'm over time here. I'm so inspired by all of you. It kind of bums me out that I'll come back and be supportive of this program for sure. And next year, we're going to find a bigger location. We're going to do that, and we'll continue to grow. So with that said, it's been an honor. It's been a privilege. It's been such a joy. And I want to leave you with the good Go Blue.
Thank you so much, Ruben. Muchísimas gracias for taking the time to be here with us today, reminding the graduates of the importance of continuing this community far beyond graduation. Today, we got to learn about the University of Michigan Latino Alumni Association, but we also got to learn about family, about farm workers, about being the children or grandchildren, sobre los trabajadores en el campo que tanto nos brindan, que tanto han hecho por nosotros. As we draw this ceremony to a close, I want to thank all of you for being here today. Para mí ha sido un enorme gusto desde San Juan, Puerto Rico, hasta Ann Arbor, Michigan. Remember, if you're not graduating, take my class. Para poder celebrar con todos ustedes a nuestros graduandos esta noche, to celebrate all of our graduating students, particularly because I have had the privilege to meet and work with so many of you as you pursued your education here at the University of Michigan. Indeed, the education of our young people requires all of us, parents, padres, madres, tíos, tías, abuelitos, abuelitas, profesores, mentores, advisors, mentors, both professional and personal. It takes a village. So at this time, I would like to invite our graduates to please stand. Por favor, pónganse de pie. And join me in a round of applause to recognize all of those of you who supported you and walk with you on this important journey. Un aplauso. At this time, I also ask that the platform party please rise. Platform party, please lead our graduates out of the auditorium. Students, please follow the platform party out of the auditorium, starting with the row of graduate students to the door. Esta celebración latina ha sido fabulosa. Muchísimas felicidades a todos ustedes.